Imagine spending your entire life waiting for the perfect moment to get back at someone who humiliated you. And what if that moment came on the biggest day of their life? A wedding that should have been her happiest day ended up being a night of unforgettable, cold revenge. If you've ever dreamed of serving justice to someone who wronged you, hit that like button, subscribe, and get ready for one of the most satisfying revenge stories you'll ever hear. It had been years since I last saw my old friend. Back in my small town days, we used to be neighbors, and the memories of our time there were nothing but happy ones. His kids, two wonderful kids, were always the life of the neighborhood. A boy and a girl, just a couple of years apart. They would run around, playing practical jokes on each other, keeping the neighborhood full of life. But, as is the case in most sibling relationships, things started to take a darker turn as they entered high school. The boy, we'll call him Jake, always seemed to be the target of his sister's practical jokes. At first, it was all harmless fun, but as they grew older, her pranks grew more malicious. I remember one particular incident. It was Jake's prom night, a night every young man dreams of. Instead of focusing on the excitement of his big night, he had to deal with a prank so cruel it still makes my blood boil. His sister, in what I can only call pure spite, decided to add hair removal cream to his shampoo. The result? A large patch of his hair fell out, leaving him completely bald for his prom. He couldn't let his date or his friends see him like that. So in desperation, he shaved his entire head and went to prom looking nothing like the man he had envisioned himself being that night. He went from being a proud, excited teenager to a bald, embarrassed mess. I was heartbroken for him, and I knew he would never forget what his sister had done. After I moved away a few months later, we only stayed in touch through texts and emails. But in those messages, I could sense the hurt, the embarrassment that had never fully gone away. Years passed. Jake graduated from college, landed a good job, and settled near his parents, but the incident with his sister was always in the back of his mind. Fast forward to the present. I was invited to a wedding. The same girl, his sister, was getting married. At first, I wasn't sure if I wanted to attend. My wife and I decided it would be nice to visit the family lake cabin while we were in town. The wedding sounded like a great way to catch up with old friends, so we accepted. But then, on the morning of the wedding, something strange happened. We received a text message from Jake's father. The message was short, cryptic, and confusing. The wedding has been canceled. The reception will go on as planned, but it's just going to be a party now. Naturally, we were puzzled. A wedding cancellation? On the day of the wedding? But we decided to go anyway. After all, it was a chance to reconnect with people I hadn't seen in years. When we arrived, there was an unmistakable tension in the air. The wedding venue was filled with guests, but there was no bride in sight. Instead, we were greeted by the family, Jake, his parents, and some of the extended family. It was then that we learned what had really happened. It turns out, Jake had been planning his revenge for years. He had waited for the perfect moment, the right occasion. And what could be better than his sister's wedding? The day she was supposed to be the center of attention, the day she was supposed to feel like a queen. The night before the wedding, Jake had done the unthinkable. He had put hair removal cream into his sister's shampoo. The result? Just like before, large patches of hair came out. The bride, who had been so excited about this day, was left with bald patches and a ruined look. She refused to go forward with the wedding. She was too humiliated to be seen in front of her guests, and thus, the wedding was called off. Jake was there, in the midst of the chaos, looking almost triumphant. He explained to everyone that he had waited 9 years for this moment. 9 long years to get back at her for what she had done to him on prom night. His parents, who had witnessed the entire thing unfold, were in a difficult spot. They were upset with Jake, of course, but they also understood. They knew what she had done to him all those years ago was just as wrong. They saw Jake's revenge as an act of justice, a long overdue consequence for her actions. When Jake spoke, there was no regret in his voice. Instead, there was a calm satisfaction that sent a chill down my spine. "I've waited for the right time, and this was it," he said, standing in front of his family and the few remaining guests. "She ruined my prom, so I ruined her wedding. I think we're even now." His words sent a ripple of discomfort through the room, but as I looked around, I could see a strange sense of understanding in the eyes of the parents. They knew what he had done was harsh, but they also knew it had been a long time coming. It was hard not to feel a sense of satisfaction. Here was a man who had been wronged, humiliated, and belittled by his own sister, and now, after years of living with the emotional weight of it all, he had finally exacted his revenge. It was cold, it was calculated, but it was also fair. Jake stood there, calm and collected, while his sister cowered in embarrassment. She had been the one to make him feel small all those years ago, and now, in a way, she was the one who had been made small. And as for me, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of satisfaction as well. I had seen the way Jake had suffered. I knew how much this moment meant to him. Watching it all come together, seeing him get that final moment of justice, well, it was something I could never forget. Sometimes life gives us these moments when the balance of power shifts, when we finally get the opportunity to right a wrong. Jake had spent years living with the humiliation of his sister's actions. In the end, his revenge was his way of taking back control, of standing up for himself in a way that the world, or at least his family, could understand. But maybe the true lesson here is that sometimes waiting for justice to come can be just as powerful as seeking it out yourself. Jake got his revenge, and in doing so, he reminded us all of the importance of fairness and respect. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button and tell us in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever witnessed? And of course, subscribe for more stories like this.